Welcome to Super Talk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. All right, YouTube. Hey, Professor, you ready?
Let's rumble.
Let's rumble. Fighting positions. And 3.
Welcome to Super Talk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode number 61. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium!
Titanium's here and kind of fired up. Check.
Yeah, I am Titanium. Where'd you get
Check
that?
out that
Nice shirt, man.
You gave it to me. You gave it to me.
Our wives will never have to buy us any clothes anymore because we'll buy each other clothes all the time, right? It's crazy.
Well, not just clothes, but superhero clothes.
Well, that.
Yeah.
The clothes we want.
Yeah,
they'll
right.
never have to buy that stuff
Right.
for us. Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm fired up today, Professor. I got a lot of beef to kind of get off my chest at this podcast.
It was a big-time week for news, and not good
really
news.
was. Not great news. We lost an absolute huge icon of an actor, an Academy Award winner. We'll get into that a little bit and where that's going to go. Big changes at Warner Brother, and we can discuss it. I'm not real happy. I'm fired up today. I'm just warning you, so I'm going to be pretty negative. I hope you brought some positivity.
Titanium is on point. What is the boiling point of titanium? Because you're there, is what you're saying.
No. The boiling point of titanium is if in the next couple of weeks we get an announcement that they are going to push Thor: Love and Thunder back.
Are you thinking that's going to happen?
We'll get into it in the news and reviews, but yes,
okay,
I do.
Okay. I don't go there yet. I'm not quite ready for that.
Fired up.
Yet.
I'm fired up and I'm pissed.
All right.
But what can you do?
Well, before we get started on Titanium being fired up, we want to thank the patrons. These are the listeners that bring the show to you. Patreon.com/supertalk. That's how you become a patron of the show. All you gotta do is donate $1 every time we come out with an episode. You support the show directly. Thanks to those of you that do it. And if you want to become a patron, patreon.com/supertalk.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And please support the show. It's only $1 an episode, and you spend more on a latte.
And we give back to our patrons more than they give us. So, look, that being said, the reason why we want patrons is because it gives us a reason to give back to them. That let's be honest about that.
Exactly.
They're the best supporters of the show.
Absolutely. If you're not getting treated special in your regular life, become a patron. We'll treat you special.
That's for sure. All right, well, let's get into the meat of the show. And we'll first start with the review section like we do every week. No new TV shows or movies to review this week, but we did have a new trailer that dropped this week.
Thank goodness.
And we want to talk about it because we're really excited about it. So, Trailer for The Boys dropped Friday or Saturday? Was it Friday?
It was Friday, I believe.
Friday.
Yeah.
Look, if you have not watched The Boys, number one, what rock are you living under?
No question.
To begin with.
Yeah.
You should watch The Boys. It's a television series based on a comic book that is on Amazon Prime. They've gone through 2 seasons now, and it really is. I love the concept. The creator of the comic book did so saying, like, look, the comic books and heroes that we have in the comic books that we've had for decades are just way too outside of reality. Like, if there were real people that had these powers, they would have real people problems, and they wouldn't all be just these, really good people that would choose to use their powers for good. There's people that would just do bad stuff. And the concept behind the show is there are individuals who are superpowered. We come to find out that the reason that they're superpowered is because there's a company, a corporation out there called Vought Enterprises, that created a chemical substance called Compound V, and they started using that on children, and those children ended up developing superpowers, and from that point forward, they grew up and to become these superheroes who were on kind of like a Justice League / Avengers type of superhero team, and that is controlled and run by the Vought Corporation.
Yeah.
But they are...
It was developed back in the Nazi era with Nazi scientists, and that kind of corporation developed from this formula.
Yeah, and these superpowered individuals are, when they're up front, they have these press agents and news conferences, and they're portrayed as this wonderful superhero team that's out to
saviors
to save us all and protect us all. But they're really, most of them, not all of them, most of them are just despicable human beings.
No question. And, oh man, it's a great show. I mean, it is violent. It's gory. They do not hold punches at all. They hit you right in the face with some
all the
serious
gore,
action. Yeah.
All the gore, all the blood and guts that you could ever imagine. And the reason why the series is called The Boys is there's an individual, his name, the character's name is Butcher.
Billy Butcher.
Billy Butcher, played by, I'll pull his name.
Carl
Urban.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Urban's been in a million things. He played in Thor Ragnarok. He played, what was the name? The guy,
Executioner.
Yeah, with the two guns and everything. It was so funny.
The Executioner. Helena's Executioner.
He's been in a ton of things.
Star Trek, Bones. He was Bones in Star Trek.
Bones in the Star Trek movies. He was in the Chronicles of Riddick, which was, played a great role in that movie. He's been in a million things. He's a great actor, but he plays Billy Butcher in the show. His wife...
Lord of the Rings. Can't forget that.
Oh, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
he
plays
awesome. Elrond?
Elrond?
Something like that.
His name, but awesome.
Anyway, he was, he's a great actor, but this team called The Boys is established by him to basically hunt and kill the superheroes.
To get rid of Soups. They call them Soups.
And the reason is he knows how bad they really are. His wife ended up, he thought his wife was killed by the superheroes, or at least kidnapped and killed by the superheroes. He later finds out that she's not. I won't get into all that.
No spoilers.
But great series.
Yeah.
And it's just, the first two seasons were smash hits on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. You'll binge it if you started. If you haven't started watching it, you'll binge it.
You have to watch it.
But we got season 3 coming up, and the trailer dropped, and it looks fantastic. They're introducing some new superheroes. They're going to be introducing several, whether they're good or bad, we don't know.
Soldier Boy, which is a kind of a take on Captain America.
Yeah,
like
it's
their version of Captain America, right?
Crimson something is another one. And you know the actress that plays her, I'm sure when...
She's like a take on Scarlet Witch.
She's the take on Scarlet Witch. Yeah, she has that type of power set. Great. I mean, it's going to be awesome. And it looks like, no spoilers, if you've seen the trailer, you know. It looks like Billy Butcher takes some Compound V and gets powers. Which could be awesome.
It looks like his powers are twofold. Looks like he gets kind of like the Cyclops powers of like shooting.
He gets Homelander's rays.
But they're not. They're like yellow, so they're a different color.
Yeah.
So it's not like the heat vision that Homelander has, but it looks more like Cyclops's
like a yellowish kind of.
But it's yellow, but it looks like, if Cyclops, those kind of eye rays that he has.
It looks like he's got super strength.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot wait. This is going to be so good.
I'm excited the way how they're going to develop these new heroes into the story, and also follow up with the Senator and that whole thing. And no spoilers, of course, but that's a great storyline. I mean, that's a great storyline.
Yeah, and we believe they're doing the super hedogasm or supergasm or whatever. What's it called? Herogasm. Storyline from the comic books, which is that's, if they're doing that is going to be crazy. So I have read some of the stories in the comics, and what I like about this show is, number one, the actors that play these roles are great. The writing is fantastic on this, but they take a large majority of the characters, and the story is taken directly from the comic books, but they've deviated in some areas where they think it makes sense, and I like that. I like the fact that they've made some changes from the comics when they needed to. last season was a classic, and this season's even going to be better. So it comes out June 6th or something like that, June 3rd?
I think you hit it right on the head.
June 6th, right?
June 6th.
Yeah, and we cannot wait. And we will be reviewing the crap out of the show when it comes out.
Absolutely.
This will be a weekly episode for us talking about The Boys. This is just going to be one of those that's going to be a staple of this show.
Get caught up before June if you haven't started watching it, but you got to watch it. It is not for the light of heart, I will tell you that. It is an R-type rated show, so it is very gory and very explicit and has mature themes. So kids, avert your eyes. Don't even turn it on.
I'm glad I have, kids that are, in their upper teens / early 20s, because if my son was like a 12-year-old and he said he wanted to watch The Boys, I'd be like, no, it's not happening.
6 or 7-year-old.
You're right.
No,
oh yeah.
Not
so this is made for more mature audiences, we'll say for sure. But you know what? It's worth it. It is that good.
It's that good. And we're not just, I know we love everything superhero-ish, but not everything. But this is something that you got to watch. This is a great show. And I can't wait. I mean, the trailer got me kind of fired up. The music to the trailer was sick.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great. I can't wait. Yeah, we will be covering that.
Absolutely. So we wanted to mention that. If you haven't seen the trailer, go check it out. If you haven't seen the series, again, what rock are you living under? But go watch it, please, because you'll love it. All right, well, let's jump right into the news section. And I want to start the news section on a bit of a somber note. We just found this out right before we were coming to record the show. Oscar winner and Marvel movie actor William Hurt just passed away today at the age of 71.
71.
Huge loss for lots of different reasons. Thoughts and prayers out to his family.
Prayers to his family. Our thoughts and prayers out to his family. It's a serious loss. He was a phenomenal actor in a ton of stuff. Like you said, Professor, he was an award-winning actor, but
won an Oscar for Kiss of the Spider Woman. Was in Broadcast News. I mean, just huge movies.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, played a very key and pivotal role in the MCU as Thunderbolt Ross. I mean,
Thunderbolt Thaddeus Ross. Yeah. Which we've been speculating. Are we going to get the Thunderbolts, which is a team that he commanded? In the comics, Thaddeus Ross, he becomes the Red Hulk. There's so many implications that now Marvel will have to try to figure out, and I don't know what direction they're going to go in because, two things. One is they need to pivot very quickly, or they don't need to do anything because they really had no plans. I think, what's her name? Dreyfus from Seinfeld.
Julia Dreyfus.
Yeah. Maybe she's the leader.
Louise Dreyfus, right.
Yeah, Julia Louise Dreyfus. Maybe she's the lead of the Thunderbolts. Obviously, she's involved in the series. Looks like she's putting her own team together. Maybe they kind of foreshadowed this or saw this. It's been since 2018.
So let's just briefly recap where William Hurt and Thunderbolt Ross has been in the MCU. We first saw him in the end credit scene of Iron Man 2. He was
in the Hulk movies.
But that was right before the Hulk movie. So the first time we saw him was in the end credit scene of Iron Man 2, I believe.
No, I think...
Was he in the Hulk movie first?
The Incredible Hulk? He was in the Incredible Hulk with... he was Betsy Ross's...
Liv Tyler's father.
Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh, smoke show. She's a smoke show.
So that was the Incredible Hulk, which was...
The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that was the one with... who's the actor that played it that got recast by Marc Ruffalo? Ed Norton. So that was the Ed Norton version of the Incredible Hulk. And the plans were to bring that character and that actor into the MCU, and we can get into the history behind why he didn't sign a contract, and that didn't happen. It ultimately ended up being recast into Marc Ruffalo, but he played a very big role in that movie in General Ross in hunting down the Hulk.
Obsessed with him.
Created the Abomination, right? And with this kind of pseudo version of the super soldier serum that they had kind of left over or kind of developed or stolen from Dr. Erskine. Or they kind of had revamped it or whatever, but ended up creating the Abomination in that movie.
And that was a what product? Was that a Fox?
No, Universal Studios.
Universal Studios. So that was Universal.
Universal owns the rights
to Hulk.
To Hulk.
Yeah.
And they released that movie, but it was kind of a Marvel, kind of pseudo Marvel production. But they did plan on bringing him in because then I mentioned we saw General Ross in the post credit scene of Iron Man 2.
Right.
Talking about the Avengers and things like that. Of you've got a problem with something that's big and green, and he was drinking a green drink at a bar or something like that. It was crazy. But then we ended up seeing him. The next kind of big role we saw him in was in Captain America: Civil War. That was where he played. He had become Secretary of State.
Yeah.
He was no longer General Ross. He was actually the Secretary of State, and was the one that imposed the Sokovia Accords on the team, which kind of really kicked off the Civil War storyline. But then was in Endgame as well, and then ultimately in the Black Widow movie, which kind of occurred, back in time a little bit before the whole Infinity War saga happened, right after Civil War. And we kind of noticed this when we first in Black Widow when we first saw the trailers with him in it. We thought, oh, they're using de-aging technology to make him look younger. But then when we saw the movie, we're like, no, they didn't do that. He just doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
And we were wondering and they made a joke about it in the movie. Who was it that said something to him in the movie? I can't remember what character it was that said something to him. But they said, "What are you on your third triple bypass or something like that? So you look like crap, or you're on the third triple bypass." And we didn't notice anything about it. Well, come to find out, I guess this was announced today after he passed away. He had been diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer.
Terminal prostate cancer that had moved into his bones
back in 2018.
Yeah.
And so he's survived another 4 years after that, but basically he's been dealing with terminal cancer for the last 4 years. So. Yeah. Hey, big loss, but so that's where we've seen him, and he's now passed. So the question is, what are they going to do with this role? So this particular role of General Ross, do we believe they're going to recast this role? Do we believe that Marvel has plans for somebody in this role going forward? What are your thoughts?
I think they recast it. I think they have to recast it. I don't think it's a Black Panther type situation. I think they, no disrespect to William Hurt and his family, but I think they need to recast this moving forward. They've already started a team, a secondary team. The Red Hulk is so popular in comic book lore that I don't think you can move and have a full storyline moving forward without incorporating the Red Hulk at some point. So I think they recast it. That would be my guess. Obviously my guess. God bless you.
Sneeze. Thank you. Sneeze button. Yeah, I agree with you, Titanium. My first thought when I heard about this today was, I feel this is very similar to what happened in the Harry Potter movie series. If you remember, the original actor they had cast in the role of Dumbledore passed away, I believe, after the second movie. And they were like, well, we can't move forward with Harry Potter films without a Dumbledore. We have to recast this character. And they did end up recasting that. I do believe that Thunderbolt Ross will continue to play a big role in the MCU. I do think they have plans to introduce the Red Hulk, and what Titanium's referring to is the Red Hulk, when he first became a character in the Marvel Comics, nobody knew who he was and how he came about, but he was just wrecking house, ended up, going off and just killing people left and right, and they were like, what who is this person, and what? And we come to find out that it was General Ross, ended up being radiated by gamma radiation and becoming the Red Hulk.
Right.
I think so. Maybe they hire an older actor to play that role, but somebody maybe in their late 50s, early 60s who's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
I do think they have to recast this character.
Do too. And we know the Abomination is going to be, I believe, in She-Hulk.
Right.
Is that so? When you talk about the Abomination, it kind of goes hand in hand with Thaddeus Ross. I mean, I think those characters, came into the MCU together. They kind of brought in together. Thaddeus Ross, at the time, General Thaddeus Ross, he created the Abomination. So I think somehow they have to make that connection again, just to forego that and not recast it and kind of move forward to other storylines, which they have.
And we're led to believe that the Abomination is still at least cooperating to some extent, because we saw him in Shang-Chi.
Right.
And Wong had brought him out of wherever he's been being kept now, whether it's prison or something.
Well, when they go back, you can see a cell, like a giant.
So he's cooperating at a minimum. And
the actor that plays the Abomination is Tim Roth, and he has stated that he will be in
human form, right?
In human form in She-Hulk, so he might have that ability to change.
Do we know if William Hurt is in the She-Hulk series at all? Do we know, or have we?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Mm-mm.
So, and I'm sure we're going to hear something official from Marvel. I mean, this just happened literally hours ago, so we're probably going to hear something official from Marvel, and maybe even Kevin Feige. I'm sure we'll get all the hey, he was a great actor, or wonderful to work with, all those types of things. But I'm sure they're going to make some kind of announcement about their plans going forward. I mean, again, I just have a hard time believing they're going to move forward some of these storylines without that character, so we'll figure out what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't think we'll hear if they're going to do anything right away. I think they'll wait, and out of respect for his family,
of course,
they'll wait.
Of course. Another piece. So let's move on. Another piece of news, maybe some good news. That look, there are enormous rumors out there that Ms. Marvel, the Disney Plus series Ms. Marvel, which we were told was going to be coming this summer, is likely the next series to premiere after Moon Knight on Disney Plus from Marvel, possibly sometime in June. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. If we look back kind of the track record of what Disney's doing with their series on Disney Plus, from what I can see and what they've done historically is they've got a Marvel series, and then they have like a buffer week or two, and then they put their Star Wars series out, then they have a buffer week or two, and then they come out with the next Marvel. They don't like having them both out at the same time. We haven't seen one of those yet.
No.
So Moon Knight coming out on March 30th, being a 6-week series, brings us into the middle of April. I believe, do we have a release date for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series yet? I don't know if they've come out and officially announced when that is.
They did. I just can't remember what it is.
But let's say that's, logically late April.
Right.
Right? And then if that runs for 6 to 8 weeks, whoever, then we're talking about, early to mid-June when that thing ends, and that's the perfect time for Ms. Marvel to be the next one on the docket.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, after the heat of, May, the Doctor Strange 2, after that heat kind of fizzles down maybe to a small
perfect time
level.
for a new Marvel series.
Perfect time for a new Marvel series. And then She-Hulk later in the fall.
That'd be great. And we know that one's it's in the can.
It will be this year, they said.
Well, that will. I think I think the order that we're now contemplating is things are going to happen for Marvel. We'll get Moon Knight, then we'll get Ms. Marvel, and then we'll get She-Hulk at some point in time after that. Mm-hmm. Whether it follows on directly after Ms. Marvel or not, we just don't know that yet. And then I think we're going to we know that there's the Werewolf by Night Halloween special is coming for sure. We know the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special is coming this year. The two other ones,
I Am
Groot potentially will be coming out this year, as well as Secret Invasion might be coming out later this year as well. So again, that's frustrating for us. We don't have any dates attached to these projects yet, but hopefully we'll find out more about those coming up.
Yeah, I think Secret Invasion will be early next year, but I do feel really good about Ms. Marvel, which I'm losing a lot of steam on. I'm not excited for it. I told you I was in a mood. And I watched again some of the scissor wheel on that. I'm not excited for that. Now, they did go back and do massive reshoots for that project, and I'm hoping that something changed. If in fact it is June, we should be getting something probably next month.
They got to come out with a new trailer for that, or a full trailer for that. I'm hopeful that's either going to happen during the Moon Knight series or just right afterwards.
Yep.
They'll come out with some kind of official announcement and a new trailer. But hopefully, to your point, they've done some reshoots. They've changed the way that her powers are going to be displayed on screen or whatever. But from what I saw, you're right. From that initial kind of teaser we got, I was like,
not excited.
Yeah.
So hopefully that they do something to tweak that a little bit.
Well, we know that character is important to them for a couple of reasons. One, she's a Middle Eastern teenager who has superpowers, and they have to get that right. But we know Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, is going to be in the Marvels movie, which is coming out next year. So they have to establish that character to some extent before she can be portrayed in the movie next year as well.
Now, is she part of the Young Avengers as well?
Officially, I don't think she ever was.
Okay. In the comics, right?
Right. I don't think she ever was. She was friends. I mean, her best friend is Kate Bishop, so they were buddies. But I don't remember if she was ever in the Young Avengers.
I will lose my mind if Kate Bishop is in Ms. Marvel. That will make the series for me. That I will turn around real quick. I will pivot.
Hey, Haley Steinfeld knocked it out of the park in her series, so wouldn't surprise me. Now, I have a hard time believing that because the age difference between them at this point in time is pretty big.
Yeah.
At least the actress that is portraying Ms. Marvel, it seems a lot on the younger side, but who knows? You never know with Marvel, which is great, right?
At this point in time, not excited for that. So,
I agree. Okay, so let's move on to the really bad news, and we got a massive,
son of a bitch,
massive downer of an announcement from Warner Brothers and DC this week. Major rescheduling and major delays announced for all of their projects throughout this year and into next year. Big time announcements, and when you sent this to me this week, I was like, this is not good.
Not good. And their reasoning behind it is post-production issues due to COVID. Bullshit.
Post-production delays due to COVID.
Yeah, I mean the CG and the special effects, the CG renderings, all that is way behind schedule because of COVID delays. Bullshit.
Well,
I mean, Super Pets is an animated series, and come on.
So let's walk through the delays first, or the changes first, and then we'll give our opinion. So the first one, Super Pets, which was supposed to come out the end of May 20th this year, has been pushed back to July 29th. So that's a 2-month delay for that movie.
I think Keanu Reeves plays the voice of Batman.
Yeah, he does. Black Adam has been moved from the July 29th date to
Bullshit. That's the one I'm pissed about.
October 21st date. So that's now going to be coming out in October of this year. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was supposed to come out December 16th, and now that is being pushed until March 17th of next year.
2023.
Right.
Bullshit.
A full year from now, basically. The Flash, which was supposed to premiere this November 4th, is now being pushed to June of next year.
Oh my god.
A 7-month delay, 7.5-month delay for that movie. And Shazam, now the one good piece of news that we got, Shazam Fury of the Gods is being moved up from June of next year, June 2nd of next year, to now December 16th of this year. So that will be coming out in the December time slot this year.
The least exciting one that I was excited about. The least I'm so hyped on. The one that I think is... I like the Shazam movie. I thought it was great.
Zachary Levi.
I think he's very funny. He played really good. Billy Baxter, the kid
Batson.
Billy Batson, the kid
you nailed it.
Yeah, did I get it right the first time? I never do. But that kid was awesome. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's nowhere near the level of the Batman or Superman versus Batman or any of those, or Man of Steel. It's nowhere near that. It's a fun family movie it's entertaining to watch. They moved that up. Now, if they have so many problems with these post-production issues, why are they moving Shazam up? I call bullshit on the whole thing. I think there's a deeper seated problem here. And it all started with the success of the Batman and how great that was. I think for some reason that's what triggered this. And I'm just saying, I think we're going to find out the real, or maybe we won't. Maybe they'll keep it under wraps and never tell us. But I'm pissed. I think it's ridiculous that they've had 2 years to get this stuff right. And I understand production issues and COVID restrictions and shutting down production because somebody gets sick and this and that and that and this, but come on. And speaking in that, that's why I mentioned Thor: Love and Thunder, because I'm not even going to say his name. The director.
What's his name?
I'm not even going to say it.
You can say it.
Tiki Wakiti.
Nailed it.
Not even close.
Nailed it.
Bullshit, Professor. Come on. Quit blowing smoke up my ass. But he came out and said that, well, first of all, they're going back for reshoots. This movie's supposed to come out in 4 months, 4 or 5 months. They're going back for reshoots. He said that the post-production stuff isn't even close to being finished yet. Because somebody was like on him about, when are we getting the trailer? He goes, the movie's not finished. It's not finished yet. We don't have any trailer. I'm like, either he is throwing a huge curveball, I mean like a knuckleball, or he's telling the truth, and that's going to be delayed.
Look, he was given, now, when Marvel pushed their slate of movies this year back one slot, we got Doctor Strange moved from March to May. Thor: Love and Thunder was moved from May to July. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever was moved from the July to the October time slot. When we got those delays, it basically, the reasoning behind it, which we understood at the time, was there were production delays last year that were brought on by COVID. And again, we did a whole episode talking through this. I believe, look, there are finite resources in Hollywood. There are only so many computer, generated graphics people, specialists that can work on these movies. And the restrictions that they were being forced to work under due to COVID were not only slowing things down, but it was pushing other projects behind. And if I'm behind on the project I'm working on, I can't start working on the next one, which is under contract, right? So I get all of that. I agree with you, though, Titanium. These are some massive delays.
Yeah.
I mean, for Aquaman, which was not supposed to come out until later this year, to be pushed another 3 months, something's going on there.
Yeah.
For The Flash to be pushed 7 months, something's going on there.
Yeah, that one is really upsetting.
So something is happening, and I again, I don't understand. I asked you this question. It's like Super Pets. Wait a minute, isn't that an animated movie?
What the hell?
What's the delay there?
Well, I don't get that. How can that be a delay?
I don't know what's going on over Warner Brothers. And look, we've always said this: they're behind. Marvel's gotten it right. They got it wrong. They got to fix things, and hopefully they're on the right path. And these delays do not help them. Is it Warner Brothers or
is it DC?
Well, Warner Brothers owns DC.
I know, but
who knows?
What is it?
I don't know who the culprit is there. Who knows?
What's your gut telling you?
I think there's a lot of turmoil at DC. I think the Zack Snyder fiasco, and we'll call it what it was. It was a fiasco.
Agreed.
Jeff Johns and Zack Snyder were basically given the keys to the DC kingdom.
Yep.
And Jeff Johns, a prolific and incredibly successful comic book author, wrote so many stories and so many books for the DC Comics. And he did Marvel work too, so he's not just a DC guy. But he's a prolific writer. Nobody probably knew the DC comic book universe post New 52 more than Jeff Johns did. He was given the keys to the kingdom. He was the Kevin Feige of DC.
Well, they wanted him to be.
Right. They're like, we're going to let you set the cinematic direction of DC Comics movies. And they're like, Zack Snyder, we're giving you the, directorial kind of keys to the kingdom. And he was in charge of the original Man of Steel movie, then Batman versus Superman, and then ultimately the Justice League. And Justice League, Batman versus Superman, did not do very well. Justice League did not do very well. And Warner Brothers and DC cut bait with Zack Snyder and said, you know what? We're going to go in a different direction. And I think we're now seeing the repercussions of that. Because the vision that the two of them had painted was now being redirected. And we saw what Zack Snyder did with the Snyder Cut, right? He's like, look, if I was able to make the movie I wanted to make and able to finish it properly, and he was dealing with a family tragedy, and there was a reason why the Justice League movie got rewritten by Joss Whedon, and lots of things happened there. But he had some excuses for that, and ultimately they decided to cut bait with him. Well, we're seeing some of those repercussions now. Look, Wonder Woman 84 was not good.
No, it wasn't.
Was not good.
No.
The two most successful DC-based movies have absolutely nothing to do with the universe that Jeff Johns and Zack Snyder created. Nothing.
Yeah.
The Joker and the Batman are two completely independent movies made completely outside of that universe by completely independent directors that were able to take charge of their own vision.
Well, I have to admit, Man of Steel was great, and the first Wonder Woman, the Patty Jenkins' first Wonder Woman,
was great.
Was very good too.
And the first Aquaman was great.
The first Aquaman was great. I agree with you. Something happened with the Justice League movie and Zack Snyder and Jeff Johns. Maybe my theory is that the Warner Brothers executives started meddling so much because they panicked. They panicked because of the failure of the Justice League. Their big Avengers movie kind of teetered, didn't do as well as they wanted it to, and they panicked. And they started putting their fingers into the pie, and they ruined it.
I don't doubt that at all. Mm-hmm. And I think, look, you and I have talked about this previously. They have a free get out of jail free card with the Flash movie. Mm-hmm. They do. Mm-hmm. They have a way to hit the virtual reset button on this entire DCEU universe. Yeah. They can create this Flash movie and use that movie as a reason to reset everything. You want to recast characters, you want to put new actors in roles, you want to reset universes, you want to change the way powers work or display them. You can do that with the Flash movie.
Yep.
It's a reset button. Oh, Flash goes back in time and messes with the timeline and then creates a brand new timeline, and we come back and things are different. It's a free reset button.
Yeah.
So why not use it? But no, we're going to move forward with these projects that we got. Look, and we said Jason Momoa as Aquaman is fantastic. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is fantastic. I believe, and I believe you believe this too, Henry Cavill as Superman is fantastic.
One of the best.
And the fact that they haven't re-signed this guy to a long-term contract is just astounding to me. They don't want that. So that part of DC was doing very well. Again, I've said this before. Ezra Miller as a Flash, not a big fan.
No.
But I was going to give him, hey, he hasn't had his own movie. I've only seen him in one thing, really, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
And he was good. He was okay.
Right.
But is he a leading Flash?
Right. And we know Ben Affleck is done as the Batman, right? We know he's done.
He's coming back for the Flash.
Well, he's doing some scenes. I don't think he plays a prominent role in that movie. He's doing some scenes in that movie, but we know he's no longer going to be Batman in the DC universe. He's made that clear. So how are they planning on moving forward? Look, these delays are terrible. Very disappointing. I think, personally, one person that really could have been a catalyst for their resurgence is Black Adam. I mean, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson can't fix things, you're obviously in a lot of trouble, because he has put his heart, soul, mind, body behind this role and is going to kill it. And bringing that character into the DC universe, I think, is a big time jolt for them. And it's obviously gotten you and I excited about that project. The fact that we have to now wait until, what is that coming out? October now? Oh.
Yeah.
And they did that whole scissor reel they did for the Super Bowl, where they, gave us we got scenes from Aquaman and Black Adam and the Flash movie. We're like, oh, we're really excited for these projects that are coming out.
That was in January.
Exactly.
So now in March, after the Batman comes out, then everything is delayed and pushed back. As in,
I don't get it.
We need to revisit this. We need to revision this. We need to reshoot half the Flash movie because we need to incorporate.
How do you push back
I don't get it.
4 projects? And some of those pushes are substantial.
And you move some up.
And you move shit. Now, we know Shazam! Fury of the Gods had been filming since, I believe, November, December timeframe. So when I heard that movie was not coming out until next year, I'm like, wow, they're way ahead of schedule there. So maybe that's what they figured out, is that, hey, we can pull this one up, or because it's ahead of schedule there. But I don't get it. there's more to this story. I agree with you, Titanium. I'll put my conspiracy theory, my tinfoil hat on. Something is going on here. We're not getting the full story, and I believe we're going to hear more about this.
Professor, I need you to build an algorithm and search the dark web for answers.
I will do my best. I will do my best.
Awesome. I'm pissed. I agree. I think something's up, and I'm right in that same conspiracy theory boat that you were in. I think something's going on, and I think it will rear its ugly head.
They're already behind. They're already sucking wind when it comes to, comparing their success to Marvel's success. They're already just way behind, and this is just putting them even further behind. And it's not making... We are your fans.
Yeah.
We, the two of us sitting in here, and probably everybody listening to this show, are the people that you're making these movies for. And we're pissed.
Yeah, no question.
Imagine what the regular mom and pops out there are thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean...
They probably don't care, but, it's just so stupid.
Yeah. Your fan base is telling you... You know what? Here's something. I don't think I would be as upset if they came out and said, after the success of the Batman movie, we are going to reevaluate or reevaluate or redo some scenes in these movies to make the experience and the universe that we're trying to create a little bit better for our listeners. That I could swallow. But to come out and blame it on COVID, it's a pill that I just can't swallow from Warner Brothers. And I think it's the Warner Brothers executives. I don't know if it's Jeff Johns or not. I don't know who it is, but something is up and it'll rear its ugly head. We'll find out.
I hope we get the full story at some point in time. But yeah, we're both incredibly disappointed. Well, let's move on to some good news. Marvel did come out and officially announce that they had hired a director to direct Deadpool 3. Sean Levy is now going to be the director attached to the Deadpool 3 project. So this is, number one, an official announcement from Marvel that they have a director attached to the project is huge. Yeah. So that tells us the movie, we knew the movie was coming, but the fact that now there's a director attached, boy, this is like now it's on the off-ramp of the highway. It's like coming to us, right?
And Ryan Reynolds loves this guy. He's worked with him in Free Guy. He's worked with him in the Netflix series The Adam Project.
Same director
that did both of those movies. So, and Ryan Reynolds is a huge fan of this guy. They work together very closely. That's a great sign. That's a good sign. I like where this is going. I don't know what the storyline is. I think it's still being written. But wow, that's a great sign.
And Ryan Reynolds came out a couple weeks ago and said, hey, you're going to start hearing some news about Deadpool 3 sooner than later. And I think this is the beginning of that. The fact that we now have an official director attached to the project means we're probably going to get some more information about a release date and how the project's going. Look, Ryan Reynolds has said he's going to take a break from making motion pictures, and I think part of that was, he's doing these limited series like the Adam Project and things like that. Yeah. But I think, frankly, he just needed a break. He's got some young kids with his wife, Blake Lively. Smoke show.
Absolute smoke show.
But
so is he, but
yeah,
she is unbelievable.
But I know he wants to spend some time with his kids, but at the same time, I mean, we know how important the Deadpool character is to him. We know how important the Deadpool 3 project is for him. He wants to get it right. The fact that we're getting R-rated content on Disney Plus is a good sign for us. We know that Deadpool 3 is going to be rated R. They've come out and said this. Kevin Feige has made it official. We are not going to censor Deadpool. We're going to let that project stand on its own.
You still think it's going to be on Disney Plus?
Deadpool?
Yeah.
Eventually?
Yeah.
I think what's happening next week with the Netflix series coming and the new parental controls that they're imposing with that. So those are coming to Disney Plus, I believe, this Wednesday. And along with that, Disney is now implementing new parental controls into the Disney Plus platform, allowing you to restrict certain content from other people that have accounts on your Disney Plus account. I believe that's the precursor to releasing Deadpool on Disney Plus.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. So, and we're going to get things like Logan and other movies that were probably on the cusp of, mature audience stuff. And hopefully that stuff comes very soon as well.
Very cool.
but yeah, I mean, I can't wait for this project. Like as we talked about last week, Titanium, the unannounced dates that Marvel Studios came out with and announced new projects all the way through 2024. Hard time believing one of those isn't Deadpool 3.
You got to throw that in there. You got to throw that in there.
It has to be.
Yeah, now they've announced a director. You got to throw that in there.
It has to be. So, again, we didn't really get any big announcements from the Investor Day meeting that happened this past Wednesday. Disappointingly, we didn't get anything.
Just Miss Marvel coming out in June and She-Hulk coming out in the fall.
Yeah, that's all we were told. But look, we've got, again, Comic-Con is out in July. It's been a couple of years, and I think the industry as a whole is really excited to be part of this event again, and I do believe we're going to get some big-time announcements then. And look, you and I, which we'll talk about in our topic of the week this week, are so excited for the Moon Knight series on Disney Plus, and I think it's going to be a resounding success. I think that's just going to be a springboard to a lot of good things from Marvel this year. But I really don't want a delay to Thor: Love and Thunder, nor do I think there will be one. I do believe that Marvel is doing everything they can to make sure that project comes out on time.
I will be I will throw an infant tantrum. I will be miserable. I will be grumpy as shit and be miserable if that news comes out that they're delaying that
Well,
again.
Taika Waititi basically was, and again, we don't know if he was teasing us or not, but he basically came out and said, I got to get the movie finished. We're behind schedule. I probably won't finish it until the end of June. Probably half jokingly said that. Look, we know how these projects work. They finish the movie. They're done with principal photography. We know there's some reshoots being done. That happens with every movie. They go back and do some reshoots, and they're doing that. They're reshooting some scenes. But then a lot of it comes down to the final cut and how the scenes are patched together by the director. That takes a long time. I would really be surprised if we don't see a trailer for that here in the next week or two. Really be surprised.
Week or two? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we don't, then that tells me a lot more. Like if we don't get a trailer by the time Moon Knight comes out on March 30th, if we're sitting here in 2 weeks, when we're doing our episode in 2 weeks, we're talking about Moon Knight and Morbius, that hits the theaters in 2 weeks. If we're sitting here now doing that show and we still haven't seen a trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder, I will be worried.
All right, I'll write that down.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to our topic of the week this week. And we've got a couple of projects coming out in literally less than 2 weeks from now. We've got, or I said a little over 2 weeks from now, right? Moon Knight comes out on March 30th. Mm-hmm. And Morbius comes out April 1st.
Yep.
So, as a preparation for those coming out, we're going to have 2 sequential episodes here of Super Talk. This week, we're going to do a preview for the Moon Knight series. We're going to go into some of the history of the character in the comic books and what we know about the character specifically. And then we'll kind of do some theory crafting around what we expect to see in the series coming up on the 30th of March. And then next week we'll do a preview of Morbius. We'll kind of do a deep dive into the Morbius character and preparation for that movie coming out, which we're excited for as well. We believe
no question.
Look, if there's been a movie that's been delayed more than Morbius because of COVID, I don't know what movie that is.
Yeah. They got to get that one right for sure.
Well, they've had plenty of time to get it right, and we know, again, from what we've seen, the latest trailers that have been coming out for that movie. We did get another new kind of trailer last week for that movie.
More scenes, yeah.
The special effects
still looks great.
Are incredible. And so literally I think the time has done nothing but make this movie better. Mm-hmm. And Jared Leto is extremely excited about it as well. And those of us who've seen Jared Leto over the years and some of the projects he's been attached to, the guy's he's a little strange at times, but man, he is super excited about this project and about this character. So he really can't wait for this to come to the big screen. Again, this was a movie, Morbius was a movie that was supposed to come out literally, I believe, the first week in May in 2020. And now we're sitting here in March of 2022, 2 years later, and we're finally going to get that movie. So we're all really excited about it.
Everybody loves a monster movie. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he looks great in it. The special effects look sick. I'm really looking forward to that movie. So not as much as Moon Knight. And speaking of Moon Knight,
Yeah, we'll do our preview of Morbius next week, but this week we're going to do our little preview of Moon Knight. So
Moon
we'll
Knight.
talk about the Moon Knight character, history in the comics, a little bit about the Marc Spector character, how the character came about, some of the interactions that he's had in the comic books. But then we'll kind of theory craft of like, well, what do we expect to see out of this series? I do believe wholeheartedly that Moon Knight is a very important character to the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one form or fashion. Whether this character becomes part of a super team, whether this character cameos in other movies, whether this character spawns new Disney Plus series, whether this character interacts with some of the other things we know are coming down the road. I think we have some theories around that, but you do not cast an actor like Oscar Isaac in the role of Marc Spector / Moon Knight and not have a long-term vision of how this character is going to be used. This is an A-list actor. He's played some incredibly huge roles in some blockbuster movies, right?
Yeah.
You know,
like Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Like they
exactly.
like that guy, and even Kevin Feige said that he is a cornerstone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it is that type of casting.
Oscar Isaac's been in some huge movies. I mean,
Yeah.
he was in Ex Machina. He was in the recent J.J. Abrams Star Wars trilogy. I mean, he plays these humongous roles, and to give him this character, and from what you've heard, his portrayal of this character is on par with Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge kudos that you're hearing, from somebody. And again, this is a very challenging character to play simply because he has multiple personalities, right? So we hear that the way that he brought those personalities to life on the big screen or the small screen were really great. So let's talk about Moon Knight and Marc Spector.
You're going to talk about the comic book Marc Spector.
Yeah, we'll go into the comic book
get
history.
into the comic book, because I think like what you said, one of your favorite things about series are how they change them. They deviate from the comics to this series, and I think we'll get into it after you explain the comic book history. I think they're going to deviate big time.
I tell you, that's one of the geniuses behind Kevin Feige's vision for the MCU, is that he's basing these characters on decades of stories and history that we've all come to know and love as being comic book consumers, reading these characters in the comics. But I have to, as a visionary, take those characters that were developed in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and make them modern day characters. And I need to be able to deviate from their history when it makes sense and when I believe the audience really wouldn't grasp what really happened to them back in the we've had great examples in the past of how Captain Marvel really got her powers.
Yeah.
Let's change that because it makes more sense this way, and we can tie it into the Infinity Gauntlet saga and the Infinity Gems. Oh well, that makes sense, and I'm not upset about that.
No.
As a comic book fan,
Agree.
So they've done some deviations like that. How did Wanda and Pietro get their powers? Well, it's experimentation on the Mind Stone.
Instead of a cow, help raising them on some mountain.
Yeah, they're mutants that were born, on Wundagore Mountain, right? I get all of that, right? And so I think that's one of the great things that Kevin Feige does. And so we'll see some of those deviations in the series, I'm sure. So let's talk about his comic book history. The Moon Knight character itself originally appeared first in the comic books in 1975 in the Werewolf by Night number 35 issue. The secret behind why that character appeared in that comic books, it was a character that was created. Werewolf by Night had its own comic book series. We know there's a Werewolf by Night special coming on Disney Plus in Halloween. We strongly believe that the Werewolf by Night Jack Russell character will be in the Moon Knight series. But in the comics, Moon Knight first appeared in that comic book because he had been hired by a corporation to capture the Werewolf by Night character, Jack Russell, because this corporation wanted to experiment on him and take his lycanthropy and transfer it into his sister so they could both become werewolves that they could then send out on missions and do things for him. And
they wanted to weaponize
the werewolf, right? So, and ultimately, Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night are able to uncover this conspiracy, and they end up teaming up together to fight that corporation. But that's where we first saw the Moon Knight character. Well, the character became popular. They were like, wow,
Very
that's a really
popular.
cool character.
Yeah.
We should do something with this character.
Yeah.
Let's give him a backstory and create a history behind him and everything else, and then let's develop this character and give him his own comic books. And that's what Marvel did. So the history behind the character, Marc Spector, is the individual who plays Moon Knight, born in Chicago to a Jewish family. So he had a father and mother. His father had escaped from Nazi Germany and was a Jewish rabbi. But he was born in Chicago and was raised there. Since his family was Jewish, they were teased quite often. And Marc Spector exhibited some violent tendencies, especially when it came to them being teased because they were Jewish and their father was a rabbi, and was prone to violence and would get in fights, specifically defending his brother, Randall, from bullies. But anyway, that kind of happened, and that was his background and history there. Ultimately, we find out in his backstory that there was a family friend who was another rabbi who ended up really being a Nazi scientist who had escaped Nazi Germany and was hiding out in America as a Jewish rabbi, which, again, you can't make this stuff up. It really happened in the comic books. And he was there. He was basically a serial killer that was picking off Jews in New York, in Chicago, as this undercover Nazi scientist. It was crazy. Well, Marc Spector first had to defend himself against this guy who was trying to kill him, and that's when his dissociative identity disorder first manifested itself.
Right.
So it was like the trauma from him having to fight off this serial killer that created all these alternate identities, and that was when we first got the two primary alternate identities that he has of Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley. They first kind of manifested themselves after that event, and so he now all of a sudden would start manifesting these multiple personalities, and then he started hearing this other voice in his head, which was the voice of the Egyptian god Khonshu in his head, and he's like, all right, not only do I have multiple personalities, but now I'm hearing this voice in my head as well. I'm a crazy person.
Yeah.
He ends up being committed to a mental institution by his father, because of all of these multiple personalities, and it was really kind of wrecking his life. Gets committed into mental hospital. His dad ultimately then passes away, and he's released from the mental institution temporarily to attend his father's funeral, and he's able to escape the mental institution because he starts hearing Khonshu's voice again during his father's funeral service, and it's driving him so crazy that he just basically ends up running away.
Yeah.
So he escapes. He was in a mental hospital, ends up escaping and going out on his own. Well, he then finds a way to get himself into the Marines illegally. Doesn't give his full background and everything else, but this is, again, if you look at the timeline in the comic books, this is in the late 70s, early 80s. And so joining the Marines was kind of like anybody could join, and we need people type of thing. And so he goes into the Marines, and he ends up, these multiple personalities end up coming out at the wrong time on some of these missions he's on, and his superiors are kind of like, well, this guy ain't right.
But excels in the Marines.
He's a good Marine,
killer, yeah.
But
hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, they end up looking up his background and finding out who he really is, and they end up getting him as dishonorably discharged from the Marines.
I think at some point in the Marines, he strips down naked and runs away, and at some point it's something bizarre like that where he's acting out these weird things, and he's
this is a guy that would literally, as Titanium's mentioning, they're in the Marine barracks, and just in the middle of the night he'll jump up out of bed, strip down naked, and run around the camp, and people are like, this guy's off his rocker.
Yeah.
And they find out who he really is, and that he has a mental disorder, and that he was committed previously, so he gets this dishonorably discharged. Well, he ends up joining the CIA, and he does some missions with the CIA, but ultimately ends up leaving the CIA as well, and becomes a mercenary, and meets one of his really good friends, Frenchie, who's a
pilot,
but they're like best friends, right? So they end up becoming friends, and they end up going on these missions together as mercenaries. So him and Frenchie become these really good friends. Frenchie is a mainstay character in the Moon Knight comics throughout the years. But they end up taking a mission in Egypt as mercenaries for hire. A character, Raoul Bushman, hires him. He wants to raid an archaeological dig in Egypt.
Bushman, a bad guy, a real killer. Yeah.
He's just a bad dude.
Whole face tattooed in the comics.
Yeah, real bad dude. But they want to raid this archaeological dig that's happening in Egypt. And, these guys are mercs for hire. They're like, sure, just pay us and we'll do whatever we need to. Well, they end up attacking the archaeological site, and, Bushman's a bad dude. Like, he wants to, kill everybody and just, leave everybody for dead. The main archaeologist, I got titanium.
You got titanium tongue, yeah.
His daughter, Marlene, she's a cutie, and Marc kind of is smitten with her a little bit. And Raoul Bushman wants to kill her, and Marc ends up, protecting her and defending her, and Bushman ends up, stabbing Marc Spector and basically
kicks his ass.
Yeah,
beats
the shit out of him and mortally wounds him, stabs him, and he's going to bleed out and die.
Yeah.
Marc Spector ends up crawling his way to the gate of the archaeological dig, which happens to be the Egyptian god Khonshu's
Temple of Khonshu.
Temple of Khonshu, and there's an ankh of that's this kind of an idol of Khonshu, and he basically passes out at the feet of this idol of Khonshu, and he's once again revisited by the spirit of Khonshu, who has been in his head for years, but eventually he tells him, says, look, the reason why you are who you are is because of me, and the reason why you have what you have is because of me, but I will spare your life if you agree to serve me on the mortal plane. And Marc Spector's like, of course, I'm dying. Yeah, of course I'll do that. He ends up reviving him, and Marc Spector's able to take out Bushman, but Bushman ends up escaping, and they have a confrontation years later. But he ends up, coming back to life, or reviving and able to survive. And he and Frenchie and Marlene end up going back to New York City, and he now all of a sudden has this sense of purpose. He feels like Khonshu has given him this sense of purpose, and they go back to New York City and settle there. He had made a lot of money gambling, and so he had kind of a cash cow that he could kind of start a new life. Developed the Moon Knight persona and costume and all the weapons that he used. And he's like, I'm going to fight crime as this vigilante, this kind of undercover vigilante persona, Moon Knight, in servitude to Khonshu. And his multiple personalities, the two that he had developed earlier, Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley, he used as kind of very similar to what Batman did. Like, Stephen Grant was like this. He would play this guy that's like a major
rich billionaire,
mm-hmm. kind of like a Bruce Wayne type of character, right, that he would use to kind of get into the high areas of the city and learn things about politicians and corruption and everything else,
large organizations.
And then he would spend afternoons and evenings working as Jake Lockley, a cabbie, who would drive around in cabs around the city and learn about all the
street level crimes.
Yeah, exactly. And so then he would go out.
Who the distributors are, who are the bad guys, what streets, what nightclubs are corrupt. Yeah,
right. So he would use those personalities to kind of feed the Moon Knight persona that he became at night, and would go off and fight crime at night and all those other things. And as Titanium said before, one of the reasons why Moon Knight became so popular is really like kind of the Marvel version of Batman. Like, he had these kind of like he was enhanced in some ways, had these like enhancements, but he really had like these really cool weapons. Like, he had, instead of the Batarang, he had a Moonerang, right? So like these moon sickles that he could throw, mm-hmm. and it was really good hand-to-hand combat, and really, really cool character. But anyway, he fights crime in New York City in the comics for years, had his own run, his own comic book series, but also at some points in time was on the Avengers, was on the West Coast Avengers, became part of the Midnight Suns and fought like supernatural threats for years. But this character's been in the comic books for many, many years. Really cool character, and has been drawn very well by a lot of different artists as well. It's really just interesting
Yeah.
character as far as like just the look of the character.
Probably why he became so popular.
Right. And
costume design and the way he's rendered.
so the powers that are imbued upon him by Khonshu, they vary based on the stages of the moon. So if it's a full moon, like he's got, super level strength, he can, jump really high and do some crazy things. And if it's like a crescent moon, like he's not as enhanced, but he still has like heightened senses and things like that. But he wholeheartedly believes that these are things that have been gifted to him by Khonshu. And years later, he finds out that, frankly, it's not Khonshu, or it is it's like all strange that all these things happen.
It's still undecided, right? The newer Moon Knights are basically, yes, it is Khonshu. He's the one. He's actually enhanced, but there was always that question: is it just in his mind? Is he just believing that he's got these superpowers and he can do all these things, and his mind is such a powerful thing that he's actually giving him extra strength? But really cool character. I think they're going to deviate. Huge.
Yeah, so let's talk about this here. What do we think they're going to do in the Moon Knight series?
Well, I don't think we're going to see Jake Lockley. I think
we see the Stephen Grant character.
We see
for sure.
Stephen Grant, and
it's
he's not
very
a
different.
Now. Yeah,
very different. Right.
Yeah, and we're going to see Marc Spector. We're going to see Mr. Knight, which is another one of his characters that are more of a ground-based, works with police, more the detective type, but a badass costume. He wears an all-white suit with a white mask with the crescent moon on the forehead. We're going to see him, which is very similar to comic books. Raoul Bushman. Do you think we're going to see Bushman in this?
I don't know. I think we kind of have to for a couple of reasons. One, he was really integral into how and why he got his powers. And I believe in some of the trailers we did see scenes of him running and jumping through Middle Eastern kind of like cities, and things like that. And I believe that that's him as the Marc Spector character, as the mercenary kind of on these missions, and maybe that's when he was working for Bushman. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Bushman character.
I think that'd be cool. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see him.
Maybe flashbacks, but we don't know.
I have no indication that he's been in the series yet. That's another one. Whether or not they introduce his brother at all, that'll be interesting to see. We know Ethan Hawke plays some kind of Koresh type.
Arthur Harrow. So that in the comic books, Arthur Harrow was nothing like what they're portraying.
Right.
Ethan Hawke's portraying him.
He was a scientist that was experimenting on people to eliminate pain.
Right.
Right. So Ethan Hawke plays some other and obviously mystical person that we think is the sun god. Potentially. Just speculation here, but so I think it's going to be very different than what we know as in the comics, and that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of digging the direction that I think that this is going to be going in.
The way they have portrayed in the trailers, at least, the look of the costume, both costumes, the Mr. Knight costume and the Moon Knight costume, are off the charts good. Some of the scenes we've seen of him jumping through the city and like his cape flying up and the sickle being thrown and caught. I mean, it's
amazing.
And you and I here. I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to see this first episode, and they're going to give us enough to wet our whistle, but they're going to leave us hanging at the end of it. We're like, we gotta wait for the next one.
Yeah, we gotta wait a whole week.
I know. I think the first one's going to be just enough to wet our whistle.
It's going to be great. I'm hoping it's going to be great.
But I think a lot of this is going to be. I have a feeling that they're going to do a lot of the origin story, and telling us about how he became Moon Knight, got these powers through flashbacks. I think we're going to get a lot of, because from what we've seen in the trailers, we believe he's living in London as the Stephen Grant character working at a museum.
Yeah.
Whether it's London or Chicago or New York, I don't know, but he's somewhere else, but he's got an English accent, so I mean maybe that's where he is. But we believe that he's the Stephen Grant character, doesn't know who Marc Spector is, doesn't know anything, and he's learning more and more about. But I think we're going to get a lot of flashbacks, and I think that's going to explain some of his origin.
That'd be cool if they did it that way. Yeah, he's definitely like a trinket type of person that works in the gift store of a museum. That's what it looks like to me. Stephen Grant, he's got the name tag on and he's working at a museum gift shop. So it'll be no billionaire, that's for sure. So I think it's going to be very different than the comics, but I'm excited to see it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you and I can't wait. This is a character that when we first heard that they were coming out with a limited series for this character, we just jumped out of our chairs. We're like, yes, this is one of the characters that is just like, oh my god, it's so awesome to do this character. And when we found out that Oscar Isaac was cast, we're like,
Nova, Moon Knight, right there, both of them up top. So yeah, this is going to be exciting. Limited series tells you what, Professor?
It tells me that we're going to basically have a fully established character at the end of this that we can know, root for, think about going forward, and where we might see this character again. Again, you and I have talked about this a little bit. I wholeheartedly believe they're putting together some team of individuals,
Midnight
Suns, or whatever you want to call them, that are going to be really focused on kind of the more supernatural threats. I think the Multiverse of Madness, Quantum Mania, a bunch of these other things are just going to, Werewolf by Night, all this other stuff is going to, Blade, the Black Knight, I can't wait to find out what they're going to do with this character going forward, but I have a feeling we're going to know where we might see this character again at the end of this limited series.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great recap. Thank you, Professor. The bell's ringing, sir.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email at supertalkpodcast@outlook.com or at supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
And we're out. Awesome. Awesome. A long one. Sorry, folks. We had a lot to cover.
Hey, Titanium was fired up.
I promise I won't be that aggressive next week. Maybe. Thank you. Keep watching and please subscribe.
Black Viper. Everyone likes this game. Haters gonna hate. And I know you can't wait.